All right, well, good morning, good day, everyone. It's great to be back with you. Today we've got a really exciting webinar to share with you. What's new with Tableau and what's coming soon? So Tableau's got lots of new features that are out with 10.3, lots of new and exciting things coming up, like Tableau Server hosted in Linux, Tableau 10.4, Project Maestro, all kinds of fun things. So we'll take a look at some of the new features that are out, and we'll take a look also at what's already here. So we're happy to be here. We're very very thankful and grateful to Technion Data Solutions for hosting these webinars. Both Bridget and I are employed by Technion, and we love working here. We love working with clients to help them solve data issues and get answers from their data that help them make key decisions. If you ever need data help, Technion Data Solutions would love to be there for you. All right, so Tableau 10.3, it's been out for a little bit now. There have been a couple of service releases now, and so it's out, it's stable, and it's my favorite production version that is out right now. So what's new in Tableau 10.3? And we'll see some tips and tricks along the way. Well, there's all kinds of nice new features. One of them that I'm excited about that we'll look at is the PDF connector. So some of you may have data that's located in PDF files. That was a pain before, but Tableau is making that easier. There's lots of updates to talk about for unions, new data sources that are supported with the Tableau native union interface. Recommended tables and joins. There's a double-click zoom option, Tooltip Selection, latest date filters, table calc, evenly distribute data alerts is kind of exciting. Story points updates. We won't necessarily look at everything that is new in 10.3 today, but I'll point out some of the major things, some of the things that I'm really excited about. 10.3 actually seems to be very server-oriented in terms of the updates. We'll look at a lot of desktop features, but we'll also look at some of the exciting things with server as well. All right, so a State of the Unions update. There's not much to show that's new for unions, except if you're using one of these data sources, you'll be excited to know that now you can use the new interface that Tableau introduced a few versions ago for creating unions directly in Tableau. And Tableau continues to just add data sources that continue to work with that new interface. So if you're using Greenplum or IBM DB2 or Hortonworks Hadoop or Teradata, you'll be excited to hear that you can now create unions with just drag and drop, no more custom SQL or writing views or stored procedures or anything like that. You can just drag and drop to create your unions. So that's a lot of fun. Let's jump in and actually take a look at some of these features. So let's take a look at PDF connection. Many of you may have PDFs, maybe just in directories or shared drives, and some of these PDFs are rich with tables of data. But up until now, that's been hard to get to. So, for example, I have a PDF here that I found online that looked like it might have some interesting data in it. So comparing home values and home ownership rates from before the 2008 recession and after the 2008 recession. So there's a lot of interesting things here. And in fact, if I go through this article, there are some visualizations where they've shown some things visually, but you know, it's not very visual. In fact, if I go through this PDF, I notice that a lot of it is just tables and tables of data. and this data might be very interesting. It might be very valuable, but it's hard to get to in terms of using a tool like Tableau. So before I might have tried to copy and paste, and that would have just turned into a mess. So instead, with Tableau, what I will do is I will just connect to a PDF file, and you'll see that show up here under the file-based data sources. PDF files are now supported in 10.3, so I connect, and I'll navigate to that PDF, homeownership.pdf. And when I connect to a PDF file, what I'll get is I'll get a little dialog box here that's going to ask me, how do I want to search for data in this PDF? By default, Tableau will scan through the entire PDF, but if I know a specific page or range of pages, I can actually tell Tableau, let's look at that. In this case, I know it's on page 4, the table that I want, but I'll let Tableau scan through the whole thing just so we can see what it looks like. And so Tableau will take just a couple of seconds, run its scan, and then come up with the data connection window. You can see the connection is to the PDF file, and like most data sources, it will then list out all of the different tables of data in that data source. So here, the nice thing is that it will tell me which page it was on, and that's the actual page of the PDF. So of course the page numbers might be a little bit different if there was a title page or something, but that's just the label on the page. This is the actual physical page of that PDF file. So if I know the table of data that I want, I can bring that in, and Tableau will look at it. Kind of looks a little bit messy, but far cleaner than anything I could have copied and pasted. But we'll see that I can even clean that up a little bit more, and we'll take a look at that in a bit. Also notice that you can union together tables. So if your table spans multiple pages, you can union that together, and Tableau will pull that in, and as you'd expect, it will give you the name of the table, which in this case is the page. If there are more than one table on a page, you'll see those listed out separately. So that's kind of nice too. I'm going to remove that and just go back to just page 4. And the other thing that Tableau has is that data interpreter, which you may have used for Excel in the past, but it also works here with PDFs. So I can check that. And notice that Tableau uses that data interpreter now to try to interpret some of those headers, some of those subtotal lines, and it's going to clean that up a little bit. And it actually did a pretty good job here. I noticed that I've still got a few things that you'll often get in PDFs. United States is a total line for all the states. That's okay. We can filter that out. And then I've got lots of different columns here, and some of these may or may not be all of that interesting to me, but I can hide some of them that I may not be interested in. Margin of error could be interesting, but maybe not. Maybe all I really want is just the estimated values before and after the recession. So I could remove everything else, hide it, and maybe just have my 2000, or maybe just call it pre-recession and post-recession. And now I've got a really nice data source that I can use. One thing that I did notice, that Tableau, since it had the United States in there, it didn't recognize it right off as a list of states. But that's okay. I can tell Tableau that this is a state. I can just change the geographic role, tell it that it is a state, maybe even change the name just so I know it's a state, although Tableau doesn't care once I've told it that it's a state. And I want to exclude the United States as the total. Probably want to just apply that across the entire data source. But now I've got a nice data source that I can use, and I can start to see what did things look like before the recession, what did things look like after the recession, and I can start to visualize this in all kinds of ways that PDF never dreamed of visualizing it. It had a few timelines, that was interesting, but now I can start to do it geographically. I can combine that. I could make a whole dashboard. So the PDF connector is great. And if you have a bunch of PDFs, all with tables of data that you want to union together, you can do that. You can use cross-database joins. So Tableau just makes it really easy now to get at the data in your PDFs. All right, so we'll switch away a little bit from this and talk about another thing that Tableau has introduced, or a few more things actually. One is kind of nice. It's Tooltip Selection. And so tooltips have been there for a long time in Tableau, but they become even more useful now. And so we can take a look at how that works. I'll just create a simple scatter plot here, maybe a scatter plot of all of my customers. So I've got sales and profit, and I can see which customers have purchased a lot, which customers have made me a lot of money, which customers even have lost me a lot of money. And I can add in some other dimensions here that might even help me understand some of the patterns in the data. So something like region might be interesting. We'll put that on color. I might even change this just to circles to sort of fill it in. I like to give it a little bit of transparency so you can see overlap, and a little bit of a border to make it pop out. And then I might also want to bring in state, just so we can see what that might look like. And state, of course, brings in country as well, but that doesn't really matter too much. So here are the default tooltips, and you can see what that looks like. They're pretty good. We could definitely clean them up some. But even without cleaning them up, even without doing any formatting, I've got a lot of value in these tooltips, because not only can I see what each individual mark is, but now with Tableau 10.3, I can find related marks. So if I want to see all the marks that relate to the East region, I already have them color-coded, but I can also highlight them just by clicking on that value in the tooltip. If I want to see everything for Pennsylvania, I can click that, and I see all the marks for Pennsylvania highlighted. If I want to see everything for Christopher Conant, looks like he's purchased several other items, and I can easily now see what those were, and did Christopher always make me money, how much. I can get to that information very easily. I can see Sean here, and I wonder, did he purchase anything else? Sure enough, he did, although nothing ever quite as much as this particular sale. But it does look like he's lost me some money elsewhere, so might need to find out what we can do for Sean to help him and to help us as well. So Tooltip Selection is very cool. Another neat thing that Tableau has done is table calculations as it relates to filtering totals. Now, I saw that listed as a feature, and I thought, what does that mean? Table calculation, filtering totals. I thought that worked pretty well. But it turns out that I've run into issues before, something like this, and you probably have as well. So maybe you're looking at just sales over time. So we'll just make this just a text table just to sort of highlight this issue. I might expand out to quarter, and let's just look at a segmentation of that data. And sometimes then, when you're using a table calculation, so here I'll just add a quick table calculation, maybe something like running total. So now you're looking at this running total, and you're seeing your table calculation working by adding up the sales over time, so that it just keeps growing and growing, which is great. And I might really be interested in what's my running total as of 2017. but I don't really care about seeing 2016, 2015, and so on. So how do I get rid of this? Well, if I just exclude it, the problem is that filters it out so it doesn't work with the table calculation. So notice here in 2017 we're up to about 900,000 on the running total. But if I exclude 2014, now we've dropped down to 600,000 because it starts the running total with the data that Tableau has. So that doesn't work. I can't use a regular filter. Well, one thing that I can do is I can use a table calculation as a filter, because that allows Tableau to know about the data, but it allows me just to hide it. And one thing that I like to do is use a last function. So last is a table calculation. I'll just put it on Tooltips so that we can see it. Notice that it tells me how far away am I from that last value. So here I'm 15 away, 14, 13, 12, and so on, all the way until I get to that last value. And there you'll notice it's 0. So that's great. But if I want to keep all of 2017, then I need to compute that last, not just across the table, but by the year of the date. So I'll edit the table calculation and we'll get very specific, and I'll say don't use the quarter but just the year. And now if I look at it in the tooltip, I notice that everything in 2014 is 3 because it's 3 away from the very end. Everything in 2015 is 2 away. Everything in 2016 is 1 away. And if I just want to keep 2017, I just want to keep the 0. So an easy way to do that is to make this discrete, so I can choose that one discrete value that I want, move it up to filter, and say keep the 0. And there we are, with 2017 is the only year showing for my running total. I see about the 900,000 there that I wanted, so that's working great. And I pat myself on the back for being clever and using a table calculation, until my boss asks me to show the totals. He says show a grand total line. So I think, well, that's not too bad. I'll just grab the total here, and we'll just show the column grand total. And all of a sudden, I'm wondering what's going on here. It's not showing the values except for the total line. And this is just something in the way that Tableau has always worked, that the table calculations don't always apply to the grand totals when you're using them as filters until now. Because now, in 10.3, on the drop-down, you have an option to apply to totals, and now your problem is solved. So if you ever run into that, 10.3 has an answer for you. You may not use that often, but when you need to, it's nice to know that it's there. All right, a couple more things to look at in 10.3. We talked about connecting to PDFs, but Tableau has added a lot of other new data sources as well. So as you look down through here, you'll see some things that have been there, like JSON files. Well, there are some updates there, some spatial and statistical files. Those have been there for a version or two, but there continue to be updates. But as we look at the more options here, you'll start to see some things that haven't been there before, things like Dropbox and Microsoft, where did it go? Microsoft OneDrive, there it is. Not with Microsoft, but just OneDrive. So you'll start to see some new data connections, and that makes things a little bit easier if you happen to have data that's hosted on Dropbox, for example. So if I go here, then it's going to ask me to sign in. So I'll go ahead and do that. And when I sign in and I allow Tableau to access my Dropbox, then what I'm going to see is I'm going to see the contents of my Dropbox, and I can connect to data that's in there. So I can connect to Excel files, that are there. Here I've got a file called company data, world population data. If there are files that are not supported, they'll be grayed out, but lots of different file-based data sources such as Excel or text files, those I can connect to. And the great thing is that if I connect to an Excel file, I have all of the same options that I had before. So here's an Excel file that has some excess headers, and that's easily cleaned up with the data interpreter. And I have all of the same options that I would have had before in terms of cleaning up the data, doing things like pivoting the data, things like removing columns that I don't care about, renaming fields, splitting fields. So I can do all of this, and it's a live connection to that Excel file hosted on Dropbox. And finally, I can take this and I can start to visualize with it. I could look at the population, maybe over time, maybe just for a specific country or two, maybe Afghanistan and Australia, and maybe even put those on color so that we can see them separately. So you can do all kinds of different things by connecting to your data in Dropbox. And that leads to a couple of other possibilities. So I'm going to connect to another file in Dropbox here. I'll select Dropbox. It's going to ask me to allow it again, but it remembers my login information for this session. But I have another file here called company data. I'll go ahead and connect to that, and while it's bringing that up, I will show you what company data looks like. So company data is just an Excel file. It's got the date. It's got the region. So I've got East and West regions in this file, and then it's just got a daily sales value. So pretty simple data source. Goes most of the way through June, but we're missing a few days at the end of June. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. You can see the West region is the same. I've just got daily sales values for both. So very simple data source, and I've got that hosted on Dropbox right now. So here it is. I've connected to it. You can see there are a couple of different tabs in that Excel file. So I select the one that I want, and there's that same data that we just saw in Excel. But it's hosted on Dropbox. I can choose to have a live connection or an extract. Here I'm going to keep it live for now, and then we'll talk about extracting the data. But the nice thing is that this is a way that you can collaborate. So in previous versions, you might have been using Google Sheets or something like that, where you can have multiple users updating a spreadsheet. But if you like Excel and you want to put it on Dropbox, now you have that option as well. Now, I might take this data and start to look at it in different ways. So it's very simple data, but I might use it to build a simple dashboard. One thing that I might want to do is just look at the sales over time. So I can have my sales by date, the year and the quarter are all the same, even the month. So actually, I'm going to undo all of that. Instead of splitting it apart like that, let's just use the drop down here and just select it by month or by date. So I look at my sales by day, and that's kind of interesting. I might additionally want to look at the sales by day, but make that one a running total. So quick table calculation running total, and that allows me to see that. I could reorder these if I wanted to. So I could put that one up there on top. I could even make it a dual axis if I wanted to, but I'll leave it here for now. So now I can see over time how I did, and I can see how I've done as a cumulative. And I might even say, you know what, we've got a sales goal of $65,000 for the month. So I can add a reference line. I've been using Tableau long enough, I right-click, but Analytics tab is even easier. So take that, drag the constant line. We'll just add it here. 65,000 is our goal. Let's go ahead and edit that just so we can make the label goal 65,000. Maybe even give it a little bit of formatting. So we're getting close to our goal. Another thing I might want to do is I think about building this out as a dashboard. So maybe this is just our monthly sales. And then I might even just want a daily snapshot. So if I want to look at our sales just for the date, maybe even broken down by region. So East and West, look at the sales there. I can see, what the sales look like, but I want to make it just for the date. And what I really want on this dashboard is I want it to show the most recent date, but I do want to give the user the option for selecting another date if they wanted to see what it looked like last Tuesday or what sales look like a week ago. I want to be able to give them that option, but I want it to always default to the last date. Well, if you've ever tried to do that, you realize that's kind of hard, and you might have had to use a parameter and some calculations, and in the end, you might have just been frustrated. Well, with Tableau now, with 10.3, if I want to select an individual date and let the user decide what to pick, I can do that like I normally would have, so the 27th. But as you might know, once I save this with the 27th, it's always going to be the 27th. So tomorrow, when new data gets added, they're going to look at the dashboard, and it will still be the 27th until I realize there's a new option in 10.3 which says filter to the latest date value when the workbook is opened. That means that anytime I open it up in desktop or anytime that data gets refreshed on server and they open it up, if there is a later date, that will be the new default for the filter. So I say OK, and it's got the 27th, but we'll test it here in just a second to see if it really works and comes in with the 28th. Let's build out our dashboard completely first, so I'll rename this as our daily sales. And let's do a couple of other things. Let's flip this and even add in a total, just so we can get a little bit more context. And then we'll build out our dashboard. So a very simple dashboard. Daily sales here on top, maybe. We'll clean it up just a bit. I won't worry too much about the formatting. But we did say that we wanted to allow the user to filter. So I'm going to put that date filter in here. Let's just make it a single value drop down and maybe just float it up here. All right, very simple dashboard. I'd definitely clean it up before I showed my boss, but for now, we'll keep it the way it is. So I'm going to save this. As my sales dashboard. And I'm going to close it. So we've closed it, and I'm going to come back to the Excel file here, and let's add in a day's worth of data. So for the East, maybe they did okay. And for the West, maybe they did just okay too. All right, I'm going to save that one, and then off the screen, I'm going to be copying it to Dropbox, since it was a Dropbox connection. And I'll open up Tableau again. And what I'm hoping is that when I click on this sales dashboard and open it, that what we should see is we should see the dashboard after I sign into Dropbox. We should see it update to the 28th. And it did. So that is a really nice feature in Tableau 10.3. And I can also see that happen if I publish that workbook to Tableau Server. So if I publish it to Tableau Server, we'll allow Tableau Server to access Dropbox. And let's make sure that, yes, we want to actually embed the password. We'll just embed it for everything. Embed all passwords and publish. And after it does this, in fact, let's cancel, because one thing that I want to do is extract the data. I don't have to extract the data, but if I don't extract it, what I'm going to run into is I'm going to run into some caching on Tableau Server, just the way that this server is configured. So we'll go ahead and extract. Let's hide all the sheets for dashboard 1, server publish again. So I'll publish it this time. It's going to overwrite it. That's fine. Yeah, that's good. So we're embedding everything. And now let's just publish just the dashboard. And publish one last time. So now, when I go ahead and schedule a refresh for that, we'll refresh it every day at 5 a.m. That's fine. Let's take a look at this on Tableau Server. Now, I haven't updated the data, so we're still set to the 28th, but if we get new rows, it should default to the latest date, and that would be great. But one last feature I'd like to point out here on Tableau Server now is the idea of data alerts. So a data alert, you see the new icon up here, but that allows me to set up an email that I will receive whenever a certain threshold is met in the data. And it's going to be based on my visualizations and specifically an axis in that visualization. So here I've got a sales axis on this chart. I've got another sales axis here. I've got an axis for the running sum of sales, and I've already got a goal set there. So that might be an interesting one to think about for an alert. But as you start to think about what might be nice in terms of getting an email that alerts you when certain conditions are met, well, something like a goal. So if my goal is $65,000 monthly sales, it'd be great if I would receive an email as soon as that goal is met. So in order to do that, assuming that Tableau Server is configured to send emails, then what I can do is select the axis that the alert applies to, and I'm going to tell Tableau to create an alert. And what it's going to do is it gives it a condition that says when this condition is met, when a mark goes over or under a certain value, which I can set, a threshold. So here I'll make it match my goal, 65,000, and I can say above or equal, or below equal, or exactly equal to. Here I want to get an email anytime we go above or even equal to 65,000. That's my goal. Then I'm going to get an email. So I'll get an alert, and I can give it a subject. So date alert's great. Monthly goal met. And I can say, how often do I want to get this? Now, the trick with this is that Tableau is going to send me an email anytime a mark meets the condition. So anytime that I have one or more that goes over this line, and I'm going to get an email as often as I tell it. So if I tell it as frequently as possible, I might get an email every hour, because that's the default rate at which Tableau server checks for alerts. I could tell it hourly specifically. I could say send it to me every day. Here, this is kind of a monthly thing, so maybe weekly would be fine. I'll get an email every week that we've met the goal, but I should get it immediately the first time, and then I won't get it until a week later. I can specify recipients. I'm going to just send it to just myself, and I'll say let's create that alert. And it tells me alert successfully created, so that's great. We'll create one more just to test things out. Another alert that I'd like to get is if either of my regions falls below a certain threshold in terms of their daily sales. I'd like to know. I'd like to know when they're not selling very much. So maybe if they drop below 500, here they're both pretty close, but other dates they were okay. So on the 3rd, well, East was pretty close, but I don't think there are any dates. Oh, there's one right there. So that would be problematic. But since this view is set up to show only the most recent date, then what I can do is I can say any time that a mark goes under 500, so I'll select the axis, click alert. Oh, I have to revert back to the original view. Click the alert and say the threshold is 500, but in this case it's below. Then we'll send it, and here we'll give ourselves a subject, low sales. Daily at most is great. I don't want to get this email every hour that they're below 500. I just want to know the day that they are below 500, so we'll create that alert. And it says it's successfully created. So in this case, I don't have any alerts yet because neither of those conditions is met. But if we go back to the data, and we add another couple of rows, so on the 29th, the East region actually did pretty bad. They only had $402.06 of sales. And on the 29th, the West region did really good. They had $10,532.72 of sales. So I'm going to save that, and off the screen I'm going to copy it to Dropbox. And now back on Tableau server, I'm going to come back to my sales dashboard, my data sources, and I'm going to take that company sales data from Dropbox and refresh the extract. So refresh. Let's run it now. Shouldn't take it long at all. Go back to the dashboard itself and view it. Well, did it refresh or not? Because I still only see the 28th. Let's make sure I saved this. And that I copied it to Dropbox. And let's try one last time. Refresh it. Run it now. Might even check to make sure it's running. Yeah, should be up to date, so let's go back to the dashboard. And we'll try one last time. View it. And we're at the 29th, so that's great. Default date on the 29th. And if I check my email, then sure enough, I notice that I've got my alerts. I've got my monthly goal met alert, because we went over the 65,000, and it sends me a nice screenshot with that highlighted so that I can see exactly what goal was met. And I also have my low sales alert that shows me that my East region fell below the $500 mark in terms of the daily sales. So data alerts can be exceedingly helpful. You'll definitely want to understand how they work and how to use them. But once you do, you can do all kinds of things to alert yourself, not just get a static snapshot of a dashboard every day that eventually you start to ignore, but get the alert when you really need to know that something significant has happened. And that is quickly becoming one of my most favorite features to think about how to use in Tableau 10.3. Well, next, I'm going to turn it over to Bridget Cogley. She's going to take a look at Tableau 10.4 and beyond. And so that will be a lot of fun to see what she has. Bridget is a Tableau Zen Master and a Technion consultant. So, Bridget, I'm going to make you the presenter, and I'm excited to see what you have for us.
All right, perfect. 10-4, good buddy. 10-4, good buddy. I will try to refrain from making too many trucker jokes because 10-4 definitely brings that to mind. However, what I wanted to do is kind of focus on some of the new tools being put in to make working with tiled layouts a little bit easier. So we've got some new formatting options that we didn't have before. And so I went through, I made a simple dashboard, a few features to call out, and you'll kind of notice different things here. I've got borders, I've got all sorts of fun things, but if we look at how this is built, one thing that you'll notice that is missing is I have no blank spacers, I have no text tags or anything like that. This is simply things I'm able to now do using some of Tableau's new layout tools. So how did I do this? Let's call attention first to some of what I've done. So let's take a look at this types chart. I seem to have a gap going into the scroll bar, so I've got some pretty nice alignment here. So how did I do that? And so if we click on this within our new layout container, we have, give me one moment, we've got a border, we've got a background, and then we've got this thing called padding. And you'll notice I actually am able to either set this equal or I'm able to take one side and move it down. Now I know in a browser, a scroll bar is about 17 pixels. So if I do that, change that, you can see I now have really nice alignment to my scroll bar. And I know that this particular data, I'm going to have that scroll bar, I think most of the time, if not all the time. So if I do that, I get a really nice alignment. It just looks really nice and clean. Some of the other things I've done is I've went ahead and said, hey, let's play with the background a little bit. And what that seems to do is it just throws in some fun little lines for titles, a little bit of spacing between the charts. If I want to play with that a bit more, I can certainly say, well, maybe I want to shrink this guy in. So you'll notice I've got all sides equal. And if I want to bring this guy in inside the chart, I can. I'll go ahead and reset that. Also with the map, you can see that I've got, same thing, I've got the background checked. And if I want, I can kind of either bring this in, I can call a little bit more attention to it, I can give it a little bit more spacing and make it smaller. I've also got this really neat border, and I did that by selecting one of my kind of roads in Ohio. So you can see where I've got this main part selected, and I've went ahead and added a border. And so if I kind of click on that, you can see where I've got my border line. I can make this all sorts of fun colors if I wish. I can make this really big and bold. I tend to favor more lighter, but again, certainly up to you how you want to play and kind of design. So that's kind of a sample here if I want to play around and just do a little bit of different designing. If I decide that my background is a little bit distracting, I may say, okay, let's take it off of some of these charts. So I can certainly remove that background. So that's one way to kind of adjust and alter. One thing you'll notice with this map also, if I kind of start to hover over pieces and parts, you'll notice that this is a continuous string. And so, for example, I-71 is a very commonly used freeway here in Ohio. And you'll notice that instead of it being like our polygons that we've used before in the past, this is one continuous shape. So with 10.4, we are now able to pull in linear shape files. So what this means is I can come to data, click on new data source, go to my spatial file, and I've downloaded a zip. So I now have a new shape file. If I click open, I'll go ahead and pause and let that load. Within geometry, I have a brand new type, and that is called line string. So in the past, I was able to pull in polygon, I was able to pull in point, and now I'm able to pull in this line string. So I pull it in, and just like when I use custom polygons, I'm going to pull in that collect geometry and put that on here. And so that allows me to do a much deeper and much richer analysis. So what I've done is I've kind of analyzed the types of roads we have. If I take that off and just leave name, I can kind of see the path of roadways and how long they are. And if I wanted to, I could actually download additional data about each of these roads to figure out, okay, well, how many miles are they? And whatever else I'd like to put with this analysis. I didn't do that this time. I just simply have the shapefile data, but this does allow me to join or do whatever so that I can further do deeper analysis. So I'll go ahead and reset that. Those are some of the new desktop enhancements. Going into some of the more server enhancements, I don't have 10.4 loaded as a server. However, probably one of the most exciting things to me is this certified data sources. Very often within our organization, we get handed a pile of data. What sources are, if you will, the one version of truth, or what sources are highly recommended. So we can favorite them, but then we can also say this has been certified. And so we can even put comments in about, okay, it was supported for the case extracts. Additionally, we've got a number of other kind of features, probably the published older versions of Tableau. I know I personally have been hit with this more than a few times because I'm one of these people, I get really excited when a new version drops. I download it, I start developing, and then I look down and realize my server is 10.2 and my desktop version is 10.3. So then I'm in my XML and hacking. So I am getting some of these new features of, well, you can retrograde. You can make this a bit easier and not fight back and forth. Probably one of the other interesting things, I know my clients are jumping up for joy for this, is the ability to comment. So instead of the manager calling you, they can actually put it right on the report, and you can kind of have a social media discussion, almost kind of like LinkedIn or Twitter for your Tableau server. So you can have these comments, you can say, hey, what's going on here? You can have a true, hey, look, this is what I've done. So a little bit more efficiency in remote working there as well. The other thing is if you are doing web editing and web authoring, we are continuing to see that parity come in place on the server as well. So that's really nice to just see that continuing to evolve. You can now format text. It's really getting very, very close to the desktop option. Another thing is the data source recommendations. So as you continue to kind of work on things and go, okay, well, I'm trying to do this join. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're using this. So that way you can kind of see these are the predominant sources being connected to. A few connector improvements for very specific ones. Linear geometry we saw, and then also we saw the dashboard spacing. Anybody using MATLAB will also be excited about the integration there. I do not have a MATLAB license, although I've definitely seen where this could be useful. And then again, more mapping updates. So as we continue to expand, you've got new information out there as well. So those are some of the 10.4 updates. So 10.4, good buddy, I hope you copy that. And Joshua, I'll go ahead and bring you
right.
back in if you find any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Bridget. Yeah, I'm excited to see Tableau 10.4. I'm also excited to see Tableau Server for Linux, Project Maestro. Haven't seen much outside of conference, but I'm excited about that as well. We've got just a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, and as I pull that up, I see that, yes, there are already questions out there. So we'll just go down the list here. So Matthew asked about data alerts. Yes, we did look at that, but if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. And Renee says, question about the PDF connector. Is it required that the table in the PDF file cannot be a picture? Yes, that's true. So it does have to be text that Tableau can read. I don't believe that Tableau is doing any kind of OCR on pictures and PDFs, at least not yet. Although I suppose as those kind of use cases come up, and if there's demand for it, that might be considered. So feel free to submit that as an idea to Tableau. The recording will definitely be available, so we're hoping to get a little bit better about allowing or including that on the email correspondence that goes out. But just in case we miss it or we don't get as good as we'd like to, definitely take a look at Technion's YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for Technion Data Solutions, you will find the YouTube channel. Bridget's pulling it up, and I'll copy a link to everyone as well in the chat here. Feel free to subscribe to that. That way you'll get the latest videos as they're published. So I've pasted that link into the answer for that question, so if everyone wants to look at that and grab that link. Can you use a variable for a data alert goal? At this point, no. It's a hard-coded value, but I know that that's definitely a request that Tableau has gotten, and so definitely look for that idea out on the forums and vote it up. Tableau definitely listens to their customers, and I'm sure that that's one thing that people will be asking for. Will the automatically updated data filter be usable when using parameters with the date range? So the date filter updating is specific to the filters. You could potentially, if you had a parameter, you could do something similar, but it wouldn't have that option because that option is just for the filter itself. Will there be a way to see which sheets a dimension is being used without doing the delete to check? Okay, yeah. So I think John's asking about when you're using a dimension, how do you know where you've used it? Yeah, I would love for that feature to be there because right now it is very difficult to tell where a specific field is being used. Calculated fields you can tell, but dimensions not so much. Unless you know a way, Bridget, but I can't think of a good way.
No, I can't think of a good way either. I'd have to sit and really think on that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We love doing these webinars. We enjoy it. If there's ever any way that we can do an even better job in serving you, please let us know. But we are definitely happy to do it, and we look forward to next month as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.